I was 30 when I initially imagined I had it all: a comfortable home with a loving wife, Sophia, and a sweet young kid, Isabella. I endured the weight of loss every day since my first wife, Rebecca, passed away when Isabella was just 1. The pain that followed was intense and unrelenting, a continual reminder of the past I could neither escape nor truly accept. I devoted myself to Isabella, believing that if I could shield her from the worst of my suffering, maybe I could help her grow up with a sense of security. Then, 2 years later, when Sophia joined our lives, I saw a spark of optimism flare in my heart. She carried with her a gentle kindness and an earnest wish to be a mother to my daughter, a hope that, after so much darkness, light might finally stream into our home. I remember the early days. Sophia's gentle voice reassuring Isabella, her warm hands offering comfort, and the cautious smiles we exchanged as we all sought to fit together like a shattered puzzle. I thought that with her love, I was giving Isabella the family she deserved. But as time dragged on, tiny shadows began to stretch over our newfound contentment. I started to notice little changes, a distant look in Sophia's eyes when she engaged with Isabella, an odd delay before her laugh, as if some part of her was holding back. I questioned whether I was only clinging to the hope of a perfect family, not recognizing that the scars of the past might be too deep to heal entirely. I tried to tell myself that everything was all right, that the love we had was powerful enough to cure all wounds. Yet, in quiet moments, alone in the stillness of night, I felt the increasing anxiety that I was losing my daughter. The tenuous bond we had was crumbling under the weight of whispered words and unmet expectations. I often found myself reliving memories of Rebecca, feeling the strange draw towards a past that, despite its agony, felt like a moment when I still had a shot at a true connection with Isabella. With Sophia, however nice and nurturing in many ways, there were instances when I sensed that her adoration was not as deep or unconditional as I had hoped. I observed Isabella's eyes growing guarded. When I reached out for her hand or attempted to share a secret smile, I sometimes received nothing but a polite nod or a quiet retreat into herself. It wounded me greatly, and I began to question if my attempts to create a loving, whole family were nothing more than an illusion. My heart ached with the loneliness of a man who once thought his life was full, but now felt like a stranger in his own home. Every day brought the sad knowledge that the family I had so painstakingly built was slowly drifting away. I tried to engage, to reignite the lost warmth, but my words often fell on deaf ears. In those long, restless hours, I would lie awake thinking about how the shadows of our past had permeated into our present. The very promise that had motivated me to start over seemed to be fading into a cold, distant memory, leaving behind only a lonely space where love and trust used to exist. Even as I clung to the idea that family required sacrifice and forgiveness, I could not ignore the rising emptiness within me, a terrible echo of the loss that had never truly healed. In that solitary war between optimism and sorrow, I questioned if I could ever reestablish the link with Isabella, or if the dream of a perfect family had been nothing but a mirage in a desert of loss and remorse. And so, with each passing day, I braced myself for a future where the love I had battled so hard to nurture was now in continual danger of being forgotten, leaving behind just memories of what once might have been. I could forget. My eyes were still thick with sleep when I spotted the streak of missed calls and voicemails from Sophia and Isabella. The messages, one after the other, carried a tone of urgency and disappointment that sliced through me like a sharp sword. I sat at the kitchen table, nursing my coffee, trying to make sense of the turmoil that had invaded my well-planned day. The text from Isabella was short, yet piercing. "Dad, where's the food? It was a question that reflected the widening gap between us, a distance I felt in every part of my existence. A sad smile played on my lips as I remembered the opulent party I had prepared. A celebration meant to mark a milestone in Isabella's life. Instead of that joy, I was faced with a reminder that my love and efforts were no longer accepted. With a measured calm, I replied, "Yeah, don't worry. It's being enjoyed by people who genuinely appreciate it. Happy graduation." I knew that. My words, though casual, carried the weight of my disillusionment and the finality of my decision. I could feel the tremor of stress developing within me as my phone rang again. This time, it was Sophia calling. Her voice was harsh and filled with a terror I had not heard before. "Are you kidding me, Daniel? You wrecked her day. How could you be so selfish?" she demanded, her words laden with sorrow and disbelief. I listened in silence, the memories of all the tiny incidents of rejection and neglect colliding into a moment of irrefutable truth. My reply was firm, even as my pulse beat in anger. "Thought you mentioned I wasn't family." Well, I figured I shouldn't impose on her celebration. The call went dead before I could hear another word, leaving me with nothing but the echo of my own resolve. In the hours that followed, every buzz of my phone became a heartbreaking reminder of the fallout that had begun. Family members, previously close and understanding, started calling and texting. Uncle Mark's message was simple yet cutting. "This is low, dude. Solve this before it's too late." Cousin Elaine, always the voice of reason, advised me to be the bigger person. Yet, I could smell the irony in her remarks, knowing that I had long been more than enough. Their voices blurred into a chorus of concern that both wounded and reaffirmed my decision. I recalled how, in former times, the joy and love that filled our home had made every family gathering a precious memory. Now, each call, each text, was a reminder that the warmth had been replaced by icy discord. I found myself wandering through the silent corridors of our home, trying to grasp where everything had gone wrong. The relics of happier days, Isabella's giggles, the pleasant hum of conversations after supper, now felt like remnants of a former existence, one that belonged to someone else. The hurt in my chest was not just for the lost festivities or the destroyed party. It was for the slow, intentional deconstruction of a bond I had assumed was indestructible. I had done everything to raise a family that was meant to heal old wounds, yet I ended up watching it crumble, piece by piece. The fallout was not just external. In the quiet moments, I found myself questioning my own value. Was my love insufficient? Or had I been misled by hope, unable to see that the very person I trusted with our family was steadily peeling away my role? Each missed call and ignored text drove home the truth. I was being pushed further away not just from a celebration, but from the core of the family I had long treasured. As the day wore on, the rage and sadness swirled within me, creating a bittersweet cocktail of regret and liberation. I recognized that the route I had chosen, one where my contributions were no longer acknowledged, had led me to a crossroads. I could either continue to be the silent, wounded father, or recognize that this was a turning point, a moment when the links that once connected me began to crumble fully. That long, excruciating day, the fallout from my decision became the mirror in which I saw both my strength and my frailty. Every call I missed, every message left unanswered, echoed a truth I could no longer deny. I had taken a stand, protecting my own dignity, even if it meant watching a celebration disintegrate into dust. The anguish of being rejected by the very people I loved was severe, yet it was softened by the awareness that sometimes letting go was the only way to reclaim oneself. Every ring of the phone seemed to echo like a reminder of what had been lost. I sat in my dim study, staring at the screen with a mix of anger and sorrow that I could neither shake nor fully understand. The silence after each missed call reverberated inside me, leaving a hollow space that grew with every notification. It wasn't just Sophia's desperate messages or Isabella's quiet that filled the log. It was also the voices of relatives and old friends who once believed in our family. Each number, each text, told a story of a connection that had withered over time. Uncle Mark's curt warning, Cousin Elaine's gentle urging to be the bigger person, and even distant calls from those who once celebrated our laughter now sounded like accusations. I found myself scrolling continuously through the list of missed calls, counting them as if each beep were a monument to a life that was slipping away. 3 days after the turmoil of the graduation party, I received another call from Sophia that felt like a final blow. The tension in the house had not lifted, and I realized that the full reason behind her behavior was about to be disclosed. I was seated in my worn leather chair in the calm living room when my phone rang again. This time, it was not a hasty message, but a voice packed with a combination of fury and pleading. "Daniel, I know you're furious," she began, her tone wavering between annoyance and concern. "But we need to talk about Isabella's college tuition." Her words sent a shudder through me. The college tuition had always been an issue of unspoken understanding, a responsibility I had shouldered without a second thought, even when my heart ached with the loss of belonging. Yet now it was being used as a tactic, a negotiating piece to lure me back into a role I no longer wanted. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every sacrifice I had made, every commitment I had honored, and every time I had been rejected, like a relic from a past life. "Genuinely," I stated, my voice forceful yet sorrowful, "we don't need to talk about anything further. Isabella made it clear that I'm not family anymore, so I suppose she doesn't want my money either." There was a period of stillness on the line, a heavy, choking pause, before Sophia exploded with wrath. "You're wrecking Isabella's future," she cried, her words hitting me like a barrage. I felt the familiar sting of betrayal, the deep anguish that comes from being viewed as nothing more than a source of wealth. I couldn't find any words to answer her anger, so I simply hung up, disconnecting the conversation and solidifying my decision. That moment was the final straw in a long succession of terrible occurrences. I realized that I had been reduced to a bank account, a provider whose worth was measured exclusively in cash. Every sacrifice I had made, every effort to hold the family together, had only deepened the divide. And now I saw it clearly. I was no longer wanted, not in their lives, not in their plans, and certainly not in their version of family. With that searing clarity, I picked up the phone one last time. There would be no more discussions about college tuition, no more promises of financial rescue. I had drawn a line that I would not cross again.